If you're 20, then you need to hear this. For some strange reason, we live in a world where a lot of our young people love to crash out. A lot of our young people love to crash out. Like it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing where people enjoy and embrace crashing out at a young age. And I get it. You're young. That's when you're liable to make your biggest mistakes. I get it. You're young. You're still maturing. I get it. You're young. You have a lot of influences around you. I get it. You're young. You may not have been raised properly. I get it. You're young. Again, you may not necessarily have the best people around you who can influence you to do the right thing. But at the same time, there is still this thing called being aware, having the mentality and having a state of consciousness to where you know right from wrong. However, many of us are attracted to this thing called crashing out. And I wanted to do a video today talking about crashing out and how you can prevent yourself from wrecking your life by way of living a reckless life. So going into it, I'm going to speak on two types of crash outs. Yes, there are two types of crash outs when it comes to decisions that you make in life. And I know this may be new to a lot of you guys because this is a newfound perspective that God has given me. So let's get into the obvious crash out. The obvious crash out are the ones who have no self-control. The obvious crash outs are the ones who run towards the fire, the ones who start the fire, the ones who increase the flame, the ones who enjoy crashing out, enjoy watching others crash out, just love that lifestyle, just love and enjoy being in those spirit of moment type of situations. So that's one type of crash out. Actually, there's another type of crash out. The ones who pretty much have a hard time really knowing how to control their emotions. So I'll squeeze that one in. There are three types of crash outs. The ones who love it, the ones who just have a hard time controlling their emotions, their frustrations, who have anger issues. That's a different type of crash out. And those type of crash outs are dangerous to our society, dangerous when it comes to our community. Those type of crash outs are pretty much menace to society type of crash outs. But then the second type of crash out is really the ones that I want to specifically talk to today about. The second type of crash out that I'm referencing are the type of crash outs that don't even know that they are crash outs. Yes, that is a such thing. You can be a crash out and don't even know that you're a whole crash out. Let me explain. I was a crash out in my 20s and didn't even know that I was a crash out. I was a crash out in my 20s and had no idea that I was actually a crash out. What I mean by that is I would consider myself to be a good kid. Good kids aren't deemed to be crash outs, right? I would consider myself to be a person who wasn't a menace to society. Like I didn't live my life trying to torture the community, bully the community. I didn't live my life as such. Of course, I struggled because of the environments that I was in and the type of people and energies that I was around. So I struggled, in some aspects of growing up, having growth spurts and things of that nature. But at the same time, I was always conscious of, having a good heart, being a good-hearted individual. However, I was still deemed a crash out. Let me explain. So the reason why I would classify myself and people like me, and if you're in your 20s right now and you don't know what that is, let me explain it to you. In a nutshell, I was a crash out, not because of who I was as an individual, but because of the people who were around me, the individuals who I chose to break bread with, the individuals who I chose to become a part of my friend circle. The individuals who I chose to hang around were actual crash outs. Therefore, I was a crash out. I made the decision to be a crash out by hanging with crash outs. Let me explain. Let me give you guys a story time. One time, I was hanging out, chilling. Like I said, I'm not a crash out, but I was hanging out. I was chilling. And one of my crash out friends decided to, pick me up. He was like, man, I want you to come somewhere with me. Me and one of my other homeboys. He decided to pick us up and he was like, I want y'all to come take a ride with me. So the other guy that was with me was a semi-crash out, if you let me explain it, or the way that I see it. He was a semi-crash out, but he wasn't all the way a crash out. So I hung with him the most. But him and I looked at each other and was like, the guy that wanted us to take the ride with him was an actual crash out, and we knew it. And he did not tell us where we were going. He was like, just come take this ride with me. And you could tell based on his demeanor that he was ready to crash out. You could tell. And we had no idea what we were walking into. We had no idea where that car ride would lead to. He was quiet the whole time. We got in the car, of course, because we're hanging with crash outs. We decided to become friends with a crash out. So, of course, when you make that decision, you got to ride with your homies. So anyway, moving on with the story, of course, my homie and I, we decided to go ahead and ride along with our crash out friend. Again, I'm not a crash out, not by default. I'm not a crash out by choice. I was a crash out because of the decision of hanging with crash outs. So we're going to this destination. Next thing you know, we end up in this part of town that is not safe. And again, we're being led by a crash out. And so we're walking into this environment that I've never been in, but obviously it's not safe. I know what unsafe places look like. And so we're walking and walking and walking. He's leading the way. And then the next thing you know, we go into this apartment building that is not safe. And then he goes and proceeds to knock on the door. So to make the long story short, when he knocked on the door, someone answered the door, opened the door, and a conversation was had. The crash out friend that we was with basically threatened the guy on the other end who opened the door and was, pretty much like, hey, look, I don't like what's been transpiring with you and my family member and this, that, and the third. And fortunately, the guy on the other end of the door cooperated. Fortunately, it did not become a violent situation. Fortunately, it did not become something that would have dragged my friend and I into a situation where we would have also had to have made the decision to be either a crash out or pretty much, decide to say, nah, you know what I mean? I'm not going to do it, opt out. But then our friend's situation would be different, right? We likely would have crashed out, especially as a young person in our 20s. We likely would have crashed out looking out for our homeboys. So pretty much I say that to say, you got to watch your friends, bro. You got to watch who you hang around. Because even if you choose not to be a crash out, if your friends are crash outs, then my friends, you too, are considered to be a potential high-risk crash out by way of who you hang around, by way of who you decide to spend your energy with. If you have friends that are crash outs and you're hanging with those friends, you're going to those parties where other people are known to crash out, then my friend, you have a high risk of also being a crash out. If your friends and you're riding with your friends do something dumb and you have no idea that they're going to do something dumb, if you're with them and you get caught, you know what they say when it comes to the law. You're guilty by association. You're guilty by association. If you ride along with the wrong people, the wrong set of friends, and they go off and do something dumb and you're with them, even if it was not your intention to do so, you are guilty by association. They are going to drag you into their court just because you was there. You could end up doing time just because you was there. And I'm giving you guys the real. You can find yourself in a situation that you don't want to be in because your crash out friends decided to crash out and you was there. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong set of friends, wrong choice of friends. You was there. So that's the second type of crash out, or should I say third type of crash out that I want to make, the point that I want to make. So if you're 20, you need to hear this. If you're 20, I want you to be aware. I want you to look around and ask yourself, are your friends, your friend group, your friend circle, are they crash outs? And if they are, you have an opportunity to turn the other cheek, to go the other way. You have the opportunity to save your life and potentially save yourself, your future self, from crashing out. Because my friend, if you don't, it's only a matter of time before you too become a crash out. You too can become a crash out just because of who you associate yourself with. There are two types of crash outs, ones who are intentional and ones who are non-intentional. But because of who you hang with, you find yourself in very odd situations to where next thing you know, oh snap, oh shit, I'm in a fucked up jam because of who you chose to hang around. So if your friends are crash outs, then you are subjected to be a crash out as well. And I really want to reach my 20-year-olds, my young people, even if you're not 20, or if you're in that gap, I really want to reach you because I really want to save you from crashing out. I really want to help you be on your purpose. And if you're new to my channel, then I encourage you to go ahead and rock with the tribe. If you're rocking with this video, if you want to learn more, if you want to be your best self, if you want to become the best version of yourself, if you want to save yourself heartache and years of frustration, years of making mistakes, then learn from my mistakes and learn from my videos by locking into the content that we provide here at the Dream Drivers Legacy channel, where we do everything for a purpose, man. My goal is to push you towards your greatness. My goal is to encourage you to be on your purpose, encourage you to follow your dreams, encourage you to be a leader. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel. More content like this on the way. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Don't be a crash out. If you're rocking with the vibe, then I encourage you guys to like, comment, and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Peace and blessings. One love. Strength.